Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I am, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I am joined by Muddy Myron.
Hello, folks out there in podcast land. What's going on today with you and your wrestling fandom?
So, no matter where you are, when you are, thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you. Even if you're listening to this 10 years from now, we look forward to your listening to it. Again, thank you.
That's crazy that when you say it like that there's people like down there, like our grandkids can listen to this at some point.
Yep.
So, but anyways,
Whoa, breaking news, Nick.
What's wrong?
I saw where Arquette's not going to be at WrestleCade, but apparently he's going to be on Backstage tonight.
I did see he's going to be on Backstage tonight.
Wow.
So that should be fun and interesting, to say the least.
Speaking of Backstage, their new correspondent, Mr. Brooks.
Yeah, I mean, so tonight on WWE Backstage, of course, we're recording this, and then people are, if you're watching on Patreon, you'd be able to watch it beforehand. But if not, last night, Arquette and Punk were on Backstage last night. If you're watching this video on the debut on Facebook,
Boy, they're pulling people in, pulling in names, putting a lot of stock into that Backstage program. Fox is. Not WWE. I think people forget that. That's a Fox show.
Oh, yeah. But let's be blunt. It's signed off by WWE. It's a WWE product.
Of course. You're not, it's like the NFL shows. You're not going to go on the NFL shows and shit on the NFL. It's even though they're.
I beg to differ, man. And a lot of people, I know what they're going to say. But one of my biggest things that I think they're going through a era in the WWE that I'm a fan of is, if you're sleeping on After the Bell podcast with Corey Graves, you should check it out. I know everybody's like, oh, he's a shill for WWE, et cetera, but I think they're doing a little more behind the scenes. Like I said, backstage, no pun intended, with WWE Backstage. I think Punk's going to get a voice on there to be very similar to what Corey Graves is doing. He's a slash between a company spokesperson, but he's also the voice of the internet, it seems. Like he's voicing displeasure with some of the current storylines and situations that he's not real. That seems like maybe the internet fans aren't as happy with.
Well, that would be something Punk would be ideally skilled for, or just absolutely have the credibility to do, because he is the pipe bomb guy. He's the guy that's never wanted to come back. He's the guy that's an indie darling, a guy that the internet worships him. So he's in a situation now where he'll be criticizing the WWE, and it'll look even more legitimate, even if it's not legitimate. If it's a work, it's going to look like a shoot because it's Punk. I think it might be a little touch of a shoot, though. Is it a work or is it a shoot?
Is it a work or is it a shoot? Yeah. I just think the opportunities this is the all-time where everybody's an expert and everybody knows everything that's going on. This is a great opportunity for the WWE to do something like that, where they can work them. Yeah, because CM Punk, again, not saying he's a company guy, because he's by no means going to be a WWE company guy. Corey Graves, like I said, they're giving him that option to be the voice of the internet wrestling community on After the Bell. It's just a cool way that they can blur the lines of reality.
Once again, Vince is going to give you what he wants and convince you want it, and you're going to like it and you're going to enjoy it. It's what he does. It's what the WWE has always done, and I'm a big fan of it. You know, when they push something, it typically helps everybody. It's not a bad thing, folks. I think this will be really good. I think this is going to be good for I think it'll be good for wrestling, and it'll be entertaining.
Now, one of our points of discussion, as you can see on the crawl across the bottom right now, is something that, we preface everything with, like, we were never huge. I made the comment, I think CM Punk was overrated. Now, overrated doesn't mean you're not good. I just think he was a little overrated, but okay, that's my opinion. I'm not begrudging anybody who loves him and thinks he's that awesome. We know with Punk coming back that everybody's first question was, when's he going to be in a ring? When's he going to wrestle again? Didn't matter that he's on Fox, like as a Fox employee. He gave, it's funny, Bully Ray said it best. He gave the Punk fans hope. that he'd be back in a ring.
That's the most powerful drug on earth is hopium.
Yeah, that's an understatement. And the funny thing is I know everybody thinks, well, he should have done this and he should have done this. A little behind the scenes, I know some of this broke on the internet, and we had kind of heard some of this prior to this. So now it's coming out, obviously, that CM Punk not only was in discussions with AEW, or AEW was in discussions with CM Punk, better way of putting it. And, you know, he made references like, oh, we were just talking via text or whatever. So was not the case. They were so in-depth in conversations because at one point, Tony Khan wanted Punk to be the cornerstone of AEW.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of things, and our sources have told us things. And, I mean, CM Punk even tagged Tony Khan in that post about going on the show. Work, shoot, internet, social media is work, wrestling is wrestling only a work on TV, and it's real on social media. They're working us very well. I know Tony Khan and them were in discussions, but I don't think Punk will ever go back into a ring. And if he does, it will be for amount of money that you refer to as...
Well, let's start with his description first. His description was that it was just going to take bags of cash, like truckloads of cash, to get him back into the ring. Our story starts here. He's on backstage. Everybody's got this hope built up. Where's Survivor Series this Sunday?
I hear it's in
Chicago.
Exactly. Pro Wrestling Tees. The only place that you can buy the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast shirts online.
ProWrestlingTees.com/Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. Grab a shirt like the Wrestling is Like Women. You don't have to understand them to love them. Oh. The Tapped Out tee, the original, or the I Tapped That shirt, all available on Pro Wrestling Tees right there.
So if you're in Chicago for the show, just stop by and buy one. They'll print it right there.
Yep. And if not, they'll deliver it to you. So ProWrestlingTees.com/Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. So here they are in Chicago. It's what are the fans going to do? Because now that they were doing this before, like long before Punk had even returned back to WWE Backstage show. Fans are going to chant his name constantly throughout the show. Heaven forbid there's a moment of the show they're not happy with. They're going to chant his name.
Because I'm really looking forward to Survivor Series. I think they've built it well. I think the concept with the NXT bringing it in is terrific. It's going to be like a good old-fashioned Survivor Series. It's going to be a good pay-per-view. Is this going to be a situation where the CM Punk chants are a help? I don't see it as being horribly, normally I'd say, fuck that shit. I hate those CM Punk chants, but it might be a good thing.
I think it could take away from potential really good matches on this card. So one of the theories was embrace it and give the fans what they want.
You can't
CM Punk make an appearance.
Longer.
Right? I mean, we're not talking about, I'm not asking him to get in the ring. I'm not asking him to have a match. I'm not asking him to get physical. Literally.
Buy a ticket?
No. You can either do one of two things. I prefer the first option. Well, let me back up. I prefer the second. I'm gonna change the order. Hi, you're welcome. We're here live in Chicago, Illinois at Survivor Series. The music hits. Cult of Personality hits. Punk walks out on stage, looks around with that shit-eating grin of his, right? Walks away. Makes the fans think he's coming down to the ring. Walks away.
Give them the dangle. Make them think something. That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea.
Or he walks down, like I said, maybe he walks down, he has a mic, he says a couple things, drops a mic, and walks off. Something as simple as surprise, and then he's like, you never know when I'm going to show up again. Drop the mic, and he walks out.
God, have him on the pre-show. God, make a pre-show somebody's going to tune into.
Secondly, the other one, main event's over. Whoever's your champion or winner for brands, I don't know. We don't even know what the main event's going to be at this point. They're standing up there holding, their hand up in the air.
Yeah.
Music hits. walks out on stage. Because let's put it this way: if CM Punk's music hits, the roof will just absolutely just blow off of that building. No matter what our thoughts on CM Punk are, right?
Yeah.
We're not stupid enough to realize you capitalize on this moment right now while you can.
Cash in. I mean, this timing of getting him on backstage couldn't be any more perfect. I mean, it goes back and says, well, they're going to bring him on the show the week before their pay-per-view in Chicago, and they're going to hook this into that, and they're going to make this, they're going to add this to the soup. And all of a sudden, you get one of those WWE moments, or you get a moment that everybody is going to sit here on the internet and talk about this week. Who knows? But
well, he's the rumor started flying that he was going to be a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble this year. Okay, maybe, but don't you got to tease that just a hair?
Oh yeah, you don't just have him walk out at the Royal Rumble. You need to make it. You need to get some pop. You want to set up Mania? You want to set up anything big? Go into the end of the year with Punk, like waiting in the wings, where you got rumors of Punk because you set some seeds at Survivor Series. So then you get people to watch Raw looking for Punk, people to watch pay-per-views looking for Punk in all the wrong places. Now, I'm telling you, you brought this point up earlier on the pre-show. If you really want to make some people watch, you don't even need him in the ring for now.
If you tease that to end the pay-per-view, literally have him walk out, his music playing, he's smiling and giving that shit-eating grin he has of his, and they just go off the air. Tell me if you're not a CM Punk fan. Because everybody wants him. You're going to watch Raw.
They broke the internet with having on a backstage show, Nick.
Yeah.
Imagine what it'd be like having on a pay-per-view just to do the same thing. Basically, all he did was walk out in his street clothes on backstage. And the internet went nuts. Nothing else in wrestling was talked about last week. Seriously. That was the headline.
Let me ask, because I'm going to ask the people watching this video or listening. To end Survivor Series, if CM Punk's music hit, he walked out on stage, had a mic in his hand, and said, "You never know when I'm going to show up." Drop the mic, it either goes off the air, period. At every moment now, you're going like, shit, he's going to be on Raw. Shit, he's going to be on NXT. Shit, he's going to be on SmackDown.
You're in the main event and have somebody get distracted and cause a roll up in the pin.
Absolutely. I got one for you.
Think.
You brought it up. He's not a WWE employee. He's a Fox employee. Fox could say, "We want you on SmackDown," just to make an appearance. No match.
Oh. He could be hyping the pay-per-view on SmackDown. He could make an appearance on SmackDown in front of a bigger audience and then make more people pay to watch the pay-per-view. I don't even like Punk, but I'm excited about these concepts. I like the showmanship. I like the spectacle. This is why I like wrestling.
I want to see, because as everybody knows, we're recording this episode on Tuesday before Backstage. So a lot of this could be, at that point, bobbled around and changed. But what if tonight he makes a small reference he might be on SmackDown? What do you think the ratings when SmackDown would do? Yeah, so
it's the final. I hate to sound like this, but if the WWE wants to hasten the demise of AEW, this is it. This is the final blow. This is a coup de grace that you would. I mean, it would really, really be a big deal. And I love these spectacles. I love these moments. I quit watching NASCAR when the cars quit wrecking. I'll be honest with you. I want to see the car wrecks in wrestling. I can get car wrecks in wrestling still. That's why I still watch it. I can dream about the big moments. I've been there in arenas for big moments. That's why I love wrestling so much. And this is one of those moments. Man, I'm excited now.
And here's the thing, too, because everybody's immediately going to go to, he's got too many principles. He's got too many, he's not going to do this. First, let's backpedal up. He just went through an expensive lawsuit. 2 of them. The one with the doctor and then the one with his friend. Even if CM Punk is, which everybody says he has been, he's been super responsible with his money. Guess what? That money's still gone. from those two cases, those two trials, right?
Well, it's not like Motley Crue is ever going to get back together. I mean, they don't need the money.
There comes a point, like we were talking on the pre-show. I'm not going to call it exactly what I called it on the pre-show because that's a totally different thing.
Similar to one of Virgil's terms.
Well, Ted DiBiase says it best. Everybody's got a price. The $1 Million Man is correct. There is anybody who says, no, I cannot be bought, you're lying to yourself.
It's the price.
It's what is the price? And I always tell people too, and there's two numbers for every price. There's theoretical money, and then there's cash sitting in front of you money. I've always, you always hear people say like, oh, I would, for $1 million, I wouldn't do that for $1 million. I bet if I set $500,000 in a briefcase in front of you, you'd do whatever. You know what I mean? Because everybody's like, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
like to talk about their morals, and they talk about the things they wouldn't do. But in the end, the $1 Million Man was 100% right, Nick. You are 100% right. I can't think about it, folks. And why are we thinking CM Punk is some kind of moral arbiter? This guy, he is the greatest moral wrestler of all time. If
you put CM Punk on a level, we typically try not to do this. Go listen to Stephen Platinum's Patreon page.
Yes, no icons. No icons.
Don't put anybody on a level where you don't think they'll do something, because that's not true. And we're going to get to more of that later on the tease on why we give wrestlers passes. But anyway, so let's we'll get back to the topic at hand here.
Exciting again. Make wrestling exciting again.
Yeah, this CM Punk thing, as much as we think, like I said, it doesn't matter what I think. I'm a realistic when it comes to money. And I know that, he is a draw, whether we say it or not. It's not going to get any better. It's not going to get any worse. This is the moment for them to cash in.
The iron is hot.
While the iron is hot. Speaking of the iron being hot, there's somebody else right now in wrestling that is on fire. Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, would you say is the absolute best true heel in wrestling right now?
There's only one person I think compares to MJF as being a heel, and that's Selena De La Renta. And I think her moment is coming, but he's at his moment. He's up at the top. He's on the main screen. He is showing off how big a heel he is. And healing is good. You can't have a good guy unless you've got a bad guy. The bad guy elevates the good guy. It's awesome to see somebody who embraces that. And he's in character all the time. Oh, it's so good.
That's the biggest deal I think MJF has going for him. He's not worried about anything. That he's being a true heel always. Social media, out in appearances, on and on. When he's in the ring, everything, he's a heel.
Yes.
And
could never be a babyface. That's why I couldn't understand what they were doing with him at first.
Yeah, the Cody thing was confusing because, like you said, he was such a heel. Like, why would So you're right. I think hopefully they realized that, and that's why. I know they were doing the
faces and heels in AEW.
That's maybe
if you don't have them now, you will, because you got to have them, and you got the good one right now. The dude is awesome.
I think he's probably one of the best, and of course that also led me to come to the statement of, is he destined to be in the WWE?
Well, if you want to retire in wrestling, if you want to make a career in wrestling, you want a long-term income in wrestling, it has to be with the WWE. You can look at Arn. Arn was making his retirement in the WWE. And there were some problems, and everybody gets fired eventually, but they come back. Well, they make a little money in AEW for now, but Shawn Michaels, career retirement. Fit Finlay, Pat Patterson. The list goes on. That if you want to retire and still find work in the wrestling business long term, it's going to have to be, if you want to do good, it's going to have to be in the WWE. And I see MJF as the guy who could be long term, a talent in wrestling that gets to the WWE, has a career, and then retires as somebody as an agent, as a talent manager, as a writer, as someone who works with character development, somebody who's down at NXT. It's good, and the guy's good. The guy's really good. He does something nobody else is doing it. Okay, nobody freely embraces the heel as much as he did. He does. Nobody goes with it as much as he does. He is really. I mean, like I said, as much as I like Selena De La Renta, you can actually meet Selena De La Renta, and she's really nice and really cool. But if you were to meet MJF, he'd probably call you an asshole.
He's a prick.
Yes. Okay. That's what it is. And I don't know the guy personally. He might be the nicest guy, but I'll never know that nice guy because I know the heel.
No, I'm right there with you, man. And if you wanted to see it, man, last week's promo on AEW was awesome with Jericho in the ring. Two things, by the way. Not only was he a heel, he was a main event heel. He belonged in the ring. He didn't just show like I could hold my own with Chris Jericho. He was sitting there going like, dude, I can run with Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
And I mean, and they, of course at the end they join and etc. I think over the next couple of years, dude, he's gonna rise and rise and rise. Let's say best case scenario, they signed him to a 3-year contract. So he's 26, 27, whatever, when his contract comes up.
Still in his prime.
He's still on a roll. I think that over those few years, if he can build himself to be the heel that we all think he can be, WWE will need that heel. Yep. And it goes back to that price.
Who's the best heel in WWE right now?
Baron Corbin.
Everybody hates him.
Yeah.
And I realized I hated the guy. I wasn't a Baron Corbin fan. And then I realized I'd been worked. I hated his personality that I saw. I hated his character. I hated his wrestling. I hated his look. I got worked. That's what you need heels for. You want to see that person get beaten. That's what you tune in for. Would I tune in to see Baron Corbin as a babyface? No. If I could see him in a match where I know he's going to lose to a great babyface, that would be it. That's a draw. And that's how it works. You got to have your bad guys. You got to have your good guys. And if you've got a believable heel, your babyface becomes that much more believable. You got to establish it.
The ultimate question will be is, will the fans let him keep being a heel?
See, this is where wrestling in 2019 blows my mind. That social media, all this stuff.
They're going to love his work so much that he becomes a babyface kind of thing.
The Kevin Owens paradox. He's too cool for school.
I think that the difference is that MJF knows the digs to take to make it personal. He knows to go, and they do a good job of going after the guy. For him going after Cody, Cody's everybody's dear, that they love in AEW. It's kind of like the theory is, I've heard one comment of Mark Henry believes Daniel Bryan at Survivor Series is going to make people not like The Fiend. Oh, because everybody loves Daniel Bryan that much.
Of course. Heel Daniel Bryan was the shittiest thing they've ever done, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was just saying, but that's...
But the thing was, it got me. But I don't know why. I hated the guy when he was a heel. I got worked, but it just didn't work long term. He's the underdog. He's the small guy. He's the guy who fights back. Yes, if anyone can change and turn people on the heel and the Fiend, it's Daniel Bryan.
Right.
And
the hopes is, though, they need, the WWE is going to need that heel for the babyface, like you said. And I think the dump truck of cash. Now, we're talking, it could be years down the road. We don't know what contracts are on their side as far as AEW side. Exactly. But we also don't know where's the war at that point. If it's 2 years from now, is AEW still beating NXT in the ratings? Is NXT still on the USA? Is it back on the network? Got on the network?
beating the developmental program. Whoop-de-doo.
But the question of that is, like I said, and he's their top heel, are they going to be willing to dump what we affectionately call Chris Jericho money on MJF to keep him if Vince is willing to pay that money to take
Jericho
him?
is not forever. You realize how old Jericho is and how long he's been doing this and how he continues to reinvent himself. Probably the smartest guy, most talented guy in professional wrestling, but he's not going to last forever because you got to cycle your talent. You can't have the same guy on top forever. I think we're going to deal with a situation where Jericho is not, and he's not even a full-time guy. Okay? He's not. I think they got to have MJF. He is the heir apparent to Chris Jericho as far as the number one heel. He is probably right neck and neck with him right now for number one heel.
I think the eventual, me personally, where they go with this story is eventually MJF takes over the Inner Circle and they boot out Jericho.
Yeah,
then you get babyface Jericho versus heel MJF. And that could be, hey, by the way, the great thing about doing quarterly pay-per-views versus monthly pay-per-views, that could be a year from now.
You got time.
Let it breathe, baby.
That's the problem. That's one of the huge problems with WWE is they don't have time to build rivalries and storylines between pay-per-views.
Yeah.
You never have a blow-off. That's why I love what Todd Sexton does so much. Todd Sexton can make an angle last an entire year and sell 12 houses on one angle and then blow it off, and you enjoy every minute of it.
Yeah. That's a good question for our fans. Would you love to see MJF be the one? And again, year from now, who knows? Let it breathe. I'm not asking for it like next week on TV. MJF turn with the Inner Circle turn to eventually boot out Chris Jericho, because think about it. MJF's the future. Jericho is the old legend.
One of the best things I've seen in wrestling in a long time, something I remember just almost word for word, is the friend celebration, a friendship, where basically Kevin Owens made Jericho a face again.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. He does it so well. Jericho is so talented. He is the guy that can pull that off. You want to make money. You want to make people watch television. You got to do stuff like that. You've got to do the big angles. You've got to work the long stuff. Can't wait.
If that's what you'd like to see, let us know, man. But simple is, you could email us at tappedoutpod@gmail.com. You can DM us on Twitter at tappedoutpod. Of course, you can private messages on Facebook or anywhere on social media. Essentially, we're at tappedoutpod if you're looking for us. We'd love to know your feedback and what you think of that. I think that's a good angle. I think that's the way ultimately you could get MJF to the top of the food chain as the top heel in the company. And, again, hopefully we're a year away from something like that happening, but I think it's pretty good. But hey, right now, is he a mid-carder or is he a main event guy? Who whatever? Well, guess what, guys? Next question we're going to ask, what's wrong with being a mid-card guy in WWE, right? You brought up contracts. We were talking about contracts on the pre-show, which led us to this conversation.
Everybody's like, well, he wants out of his contract. He wants out of his contract. Well, okay, how bad is this contract that you can't just break it or get out? Are contracts that airtight? And I was talking to people. I talked to Tim Holman, who's a sports entertainment not sports entertainment. He's a sports attorney. He does this kind of stuff. He knows about contracts. I talked to other people that knew about contracts. They can break these contracts. Working somewhere else might be the problem. They might be they may not be able to go work somewhere else. They might have to go work in Japan or Mexico if they want to work again. They're signing people these contracts. These people want to get out of these contracts, but man, I thought everybody wanted to work with WWE. Why is Heath Slater the smartest man in professional wrestling? He has attractive girlfriends, stays in great shape, collects toys, and works an occasional show.
Zack Ryder, you're talking about.
Zack Ryder.
Yeah.
Heath Slater too, but he doesn't have I don't know anything about his social life, and I don't know about if he likes toys or has a podcast. But Zack Ryder, I get my memory's shit, folks. I'm sorry. Many concussions. Don't have those. But Zack Ryder's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. He keeps drawing a check. He lives in Florida somewhere. Life is cool. He tans. He hangs out with his buddies. He sleeps with hot women. He makes money. He hangs out in catering. What's bad about that? What's bad? Like when we played football in high school, the coach would laugh at the scrubs for riding the bus and eating the steaks, the pregame meals. They never were going to get in the game, but they were still part of the team. They weren't complaining. They were glad to get associated and get that Letterman jacket. They thought it was cool to be on the football team. So what? What's wrong with being a mid-card guy? What's wrong with being on the payroll of the largest wrestling company in the whole world? What's wrong with being somebody who will probably retire on the WWE payroll? Look at Ron Killings. He's in his 50s. He does goofy shit. He got a job. You have one skill. Wrestlers aren't like people who go to college. No, I'm not making offense. You have something you can do, professional wrestling. You have a very limited job market. And for a long time, the WWE was the only job market for money. AEW is paying people now. Other people are paying people. But everybody's goal was to get to WWE. Why not just stay and make money? Be popular. Sign some autographs. Have merchandise on the website.
Well, I mean, and I think to some degree we're going to come to the, there are talks of them letting some people out of some contracts now, but I want to piggyback to what you just said. When somebody says like, oh, I'm not being used correctly, you may not be as good as you think you are. That's something to keep in mind. I know that sounds silly. And this is going to go into touch to the next thing that we're going to talk about here shortly about we give some wrestlers a pass. Sometimes you may think you're better than your position and you're not. And that's just, it's a tough pill to swallow sometimes. But we've always said everybody can't be the main event. Everybody can't be the top.
There's only one main event. Sometimes they have a joint main event. That doesn't work. You have to have one main event. It's a pyramid.
Now, do I think there's more people that need to be involved as far as a little more at the upper mid-card level? Sure. But guess who might be the absolute smartest man in the WWE? Finn Balor.
Yep.
Again, because I'm not getting paid to promote the After the Bell podcast with Corey Graves, but on this week's episode, he had Finn Balor on there, and basically he took time off to just go reevaluate his life. He said personal and just recharge and kind of get his, get where in a good place for himself. And he went back to NXT because I think at some point he realized I can be the man in NXT.
Exactly.
Or I can, be just lost in the shuffle on the Raw and SmackDown. And as he put it, it was kind of funny. He really he was like, yeah, he won the Universal title. He got injured, so he was out. So for injuries had knocked him around a little bit. He had wrestled in the last year. He said he wrestled more matches than anybody on the entire roster. He wrestled 172 matches last year. So his argument's simple.
3 a week.
He's working.
Yeah.
So there's only so many places at the top, right? Everybody
in wrestling, but not for our Patreons. There's unlimited spots to be main event talent when you sponsor us on patreon.com.
Absolutely. We got a new one, icon status, Malone Hart. We want to say thanks to him for joining in. Of course, all of the guys that we've got on there. I don't have the list in front of me. I wish I did. Brave, Nathan Lippman, Roberto Rossi, the double drop kick guys.
Martini and Rossi people.
What's that?
Roberto Rossi of the Martini and Rossi people.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So, but anyway, Miss Reimer, Lowell, lots of OGs that have been around for a long time, as they like to say. We appreciate it. Check them out, man. Because you catch a lot of cool stuff on the Patreon page. Patreon.com/tappedoutpod. Get the pre-show, get the show early. Lots of cool stuff. And, of course, you can get shirts, etc. All that's free when you sign up on the patreon.com and become a main event person yourself, right?
Yep. That's where to get on the top of the card, folks. Support us. We love you.
Absolutely. And like I said, I think that's the problem is a lot of guys just want to be at the top and they just want to be, like, hey, there's just not enough room, even for tag teams. So, and, the rumors now coming out that WWE's actually considering releasing people. Because, you've got the rumors like Sin Cara wants out, the Revival want out, Orny Loken, or Larkin, they got from UK.
He can go, but he'll be another guy on the mid card on AEW. He might show up their mid card. Sin Cara's going to go back to Mexico.
Sure.
And then they'll put another guy under the mask and he'll be Sin Cara 3 or whatever it is.
Right.
Won't matter. If they need a Hispanic talent, they'll just make another Sin Cara. No big loss.
As a whole, let me ask you this. As a whole, a bulk of the people asking Mike Kanellis, once it's released, and it's not a disrespect because it goes back to what's wrong with being a mid-carder. Are they really any better than mid-carders, most of them?
The Revival they've been holding the tag team belts. The Revival have been doing very good, and that might be in response to them wanting out.
I'm going to say something that's not going to be popular.
What's that?
I don't think the Revival worked very well in AEW.
No, they're a old-fashioned tag team in a high spot world.
Are they gonna think about that? Are they gonna get in there with eventually, the Jungle Boys and the Marcus Stunts or the Luchasaurus, the Lucha Brothers,
that stuff is all choreographed, and it's these fancy stuff where you wait on your moves, when the moves are coming. Their whole gimmick is no flips, just fists, and they're I don't think they'd work in no fists, just flips.
How many tag teams in AEW? Because even at one point I thought SCU, but I'm like, no, they're pretty, spotty too. So if everybody's a spot fit, everybody's like, well, they'll stand out. Yeah, they'll stand out because they're going to be are the fans going to sit there and be like, they're boring?
Well, you can't. I'm sorry, folks, but they're never going to get hired because they're Cornette favorites, and the Bucks aren't going to bring in Cornette's favorites unless it's to shit on them. If the Bucks are in charge of the tag teams and they bring in Cornette's favorite tag team, they're not going to put them over. It's just end of story.
Before we move on from this topic, I do want to ask, because the other question is real simple. If you do start the process, and think about it, Jericho in an interview said they just weren't really interested in bringing in everybody that leaves the WWE.
No.
If you start bringing in all those guys, so you let Sin Cara go, let the Revival go, let Lorcan, let this guy, let that guy, and they start piling up. Eventually, here's the problem: there's not enough spaces,
and you become 10A.
Well, no, there's just not enough spaces. They're not going to hire everybody, and then what? Then don't you feel like shit that they let all these people go?
Checking out those indie darlings everybody wants to see in the wrestling bubble. I believe Cornette stole your wrestling bubble bit, by the way. He's been saying that a lot lately. I think he took your gimmick. I think he might have took your gimmick.
I'm going to have to look into that.
Well, his attorney, Stephen P. New, technically sponsors the show also. So it's our video show over on the Jarrett Parsons Wrestling Network. So we might have a conflict of interest with our attorneys.
Well, so here's the other thing. We're talking about all the wrestlers, like we were saying, being mid-carders at best, etc. But we always like to say the next topic that I want to get into is something that I sent you this article. It was over on thechairshot.com. You check it out, the article, because it brings up a great point. As wrestling fans, and this is stems or stuff from local that could tie into this. I mean, lots of stuff. And I put out a tweet about how just because you're a great person and I think you're an awesome friend or whatever, doesn't make you great in the ring. It works vice versa.
Yeah.
You could be an asshole in the ring or an asshole and be great in the ring. And it doesn't change that. And I think a lot of times we look as wrestling fans and we make excuses for wrestlers for a multitude of reasons. And these were 5 really good, solid reasons that people do it.
And I think these are reasons we see a lot, even in Georgia.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it works at the indie level. It works on the big stage. It works everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, pretty much, and this is the what we were just talking about in the AEW talk and the contracts and stuff like that is, they're a good worker, so we give them a pass.
Yeah.
My argument, like we were making the point, certain guy, Mike Kanellis is a mid-carder at best. Oh, but he's a great worker. He could do so much better at AEW. Why? because he did better in Ring of Honor? Guess what? It's worker based. And who says he's such a great worker he deserves better?
We've seen worker base doesn't sell. Worker base don't sell.
But my point, but if they're not as good or they make a mistake or whatever, oh, they're a great worker. And the examples in the article that are brilliant examples are Lacey and Natalya have a bad match. It's got to be Lacey's fault because Natalya is such a great worker.
Yep.
Natty couldn't make a mistake. Now, I agree with you. Natty's is a good worker, but Natty couldn't make a mistake.
Yep.
Nia Jax bust Becky Lynch's face. Nia's reckless and so forth. Becky stiffs somebody. She's just working snug because Becky's such a good worker. The Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, they're the greatest tag team, and he's the best wrestler in the world. You watch some matches and you want to sit there and point out stuff like, well, we're going to make excuses because they're great workers. They're the best workers, and they're tag team, singles, whatever. Constantly making excuses for them. How about just call it like it is? Agree?
Yeah.
The next one is a little tougher to talk about.
Hypocrisy.
Well, the next one's tough to talk about because it's not usually, but it is. Women.
Yes.
We will make an excuse for a hot female wrestler because she's hot. We want to see her make it. We want to see her on our TV more.
Yes. It's just the truth, folks. It's the truth. We've seen women push that had absolutely no business being out there, but they were attractive. So we're like, oh, okay, well, they're not that bad. We'll make excuses for them. Well, you've seen Brie Bella's botched moves that people got all over, but if Nikki would have botched the move, would it have been that big a deal?
If Scarlett Bordeaux makes those mistakes, oh, she's green, she's young, whatever.
I still don't understand what the WWE wants in her unless it's just tits and ass. I'm sorry. Because I don't know what she's good at.
We're going to find out soon.
I've seen her in some outfits that were just unbelievable, but I've never seen her work.
She could be arm candy for somebody. She could be a mouthpiece for some.
Are we still in that time?
Yeah. Aren't we always?
Well, I guess you need a new Lana eventually.
That's a bad rap too, by the way. Lana being that ice cold princess was good. This new story is a train wreck. I absolutely don't try to defend it. It's a disaster.
Well, it had a little pepper at first, and we thought it was going to work out, but it's turning like they're kind of off track a little bit. Ugh.
It's because she was hot. We were trying to make excuses. We just fell into the trap that we were talking about.
Yeah, we did that.
Number 3. Wrestlers we make excuses for because, one, we're just absolutely afraid of them.
Yes.
And there's one name I give you in that category, and we both talked about it on the pre-show. And what's that name?
It's New Jack.
Yeah.
You're around that motherfucker? He's scary as shit.
New Jack's scary. Nobody talks shit about New Jack because New Jack will beat your ass.
He stapled C.W. Anderson's penis by mistake.
Dude, if you ever want to hear, go look at the laundry list of shit he has done in his career. He stabbed a dude.
The whole
literally
incident was just a terrifying story. That kid nearly died.
Dude, he stabbed a dude 16 times in a match. Not mass. This is another end. That's my point. Google the mass transit on YouTube. Mass transit incident, ECW. Then he literally, in a match, was so mad that a dude wasn't working with him right. He took out a thing and stabbed him. Assaulted him in a wrestling match. It's just wrestling, man. No. But guess what? That terrified him, dude, Jack. And nobody gives him crap about it because they're scared to death of it. You know who else would have been like that? Abdullah the Butcher. Bruiser Brody.
Yeah.
People, there's just no, you're not going to talk bad about him because you're scared shitless of him.
Well, Brody was a guy that was booked, even with a reputation for being horribly difficult. He was a big enough draw, and people were scared of him, so they booked him anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's man.
So another one. Reason we give wrestlers a pass. Anybody in competition with WWE.
Yes.
In the beginning, it was Impact.
Yes.
Which, by the way, I still would argue that's one of the best products you're not watching on TV. They
Yeah.
do have some hokey stuff. I totally get it, but they're giving you a smorgasbord of, buffet, and you should be checking it out. I absolutely do think that. Ring of Honor, every excuse under the sun. It was a poorly produced indie, no matter what you want to say, indie-rific product.
Yes.
But everybody made excuses for it because they hoped that it would be the one that would give WWE a run.
We love the underdog.
AEW. Doesn't matter if we love them or not, which we do, but everybody makes excuses because they're the alternative to WWE. So we're going to make every excuse we can, defend everything they do for whatever reason because we want them to succeed.
The kid matches, the barbed wire bed frame. Folks, we've had but one big choice for so long that we grasp at straws to try to see any other alternative. I mean, even in indie shows, when you see indie shows just around Georgia that people talk about how great they are, just because they're running against somebody who might be more popular or more established. And you look at it, the shows, you look at them from a fair standpoint, and the show is just dog shit. But you have a loyal following of people who just hate another show so bad. I mean, AEW is the alternative for the young kids. NWA is the alternative for us old folks. Do I want them all to succeed? Yes, but I don't really want them to succeed as a spite to WWE because it's a big umbrella. And WWE is the part of the umbrella that holds the whole rest of the umbrella up. We can't let them fall because we'll all fall. Bad.
Absolutely. And then, of course, my favorite reason why we give wrestlers a pass, and this is about as true as it comes.
Yep.
They're your heroes. They're the ones that you looked up to.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Hogan is a miserable human being. But when I was 12 years old, Hogan was God. And you imprint memories when you're young that last you the rest of your life. And you don't just shake them off. Your heroes most likely will disappoint you. The only hero I can say will never disappoint you is Dr. Tom Pritchard, who was my childhood hero, and I look so much forward to him on Tipping Point tonight. I'm marking out this picture right here. I never can get this part right. That's Kevin Sullivan, Tom Pritchard, and Camille, and Jim Cornette. That's pretty much a Hall of Fame right there.
I mean, here's the thing. You brought up Hogan first. Hogan makes racist remarks. Usually within months, everybody seems to, not say everybody, a huge chunk of the wrestling population forgives him, that he moves in and boom, he's gone, and he's back on TV or he's back on a pay-per-view or whatever. Nature Boy Ric Flair, listen, doesn't matter what I know personally about the guy. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, he clearly wasn't a great husband. Clearly wasn't the best father. He was, he was out Naching. And that's the excuse everybody's like, oh, he's just Nate being Nate. So getting drunk every night and, running around on your wife and say, we made excuses for Ric Flair's behavior because he was Ric Flair and he was the greatest wrestler of all time. Is that okay? I mean, no, it's really not.
I don't think we saw flawed heroes until Marvel Comics started doing that stuff that they did with the flawed heroes. And then you started seeing it more in movies, and it became an issue that people grasped with. But when we were kids, man, if you were a hero, you were a hero.
Right.
Didn't matter. And when we learn stuff about our heroes these days, it's tough. Be honest, it's tough because we idolize these people. We didn't know all these things. It wasn't in our age when we were kids. We didn't hear bad things about people because wrestlers weren't going to make the Inquirer. That was the only people that were posting bad stuff about people.
Yeah.
Okay. Sports figures. Never heard anything bad about sports figures. If Michael Vick hadn't existed when we were kids, nobody would have known about the dogfighting. So we get our heroes pulled out in front of us and exposed. But the guys that were around when we were kids, we make excuses for. I know people in independent wrestling that get infatuated with a wrestler and will tolerate them doing things that might be unsavory. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's easy to just want to turn a blind eye, and even at the core, there's been a lot of great people, like wrestlers that we thought were great people, who we found out not so much. But they're
Jake the Snake. I love Jake the Snake.
Goes back to a comment I made earlier in the show. Just because you're a good person and I like you, doesn't mean you're a great wrestler, and vice versa.
Yeah.
If you're an asshole, that doesn't mean you can't be a great wrestler.
I mean, we've met a lot of older wrestlers that were great people that we didn't give two shits about when we were kids.
Yeah. Sorry, it just happens. But anyway, let's head on into wind the show down in the indie talk. Hopefully, we got enough time to get Danny Jordan on here at the end. I'm looking at my clock, hoping we can get her in. We're running it close, so we'll see if we're able to get her in today. We just for a couple of weeks we've been trying, and we just can't seem to. We just keep running out of time. But let's see. Let's get through the Georgia indie talk. But this week, the Georgia indie talk section is brought to you by the one and only Viral Pro Championship Wrestling. Let's got a big show coming up December 14th. Let's check it out and let's see what's going on.
It's going to be just fine. Talk to you later. James Caleb Kitchens. You made two mistakes coming into Viral Pro Wrestling. Your first mistake, getting a manager's license and thinking you were going to come in and run this company. But guess what? I'm not going to let that happen. Your second mistake, creating the unknown and having them interfere in just about every match we've had at Viral Pro Wrestling. Saying what they want to, doing what they want to, jumping the guardrail. What's next? Well, I tell you what's next. On December 14th at Holiday Havoc, live here in Thompson, Georgia, the VPW champion, Darius Lockhart, will defend against not one, but two men. And guess what, Caleb? It's all your fault. You thought you were winning? Well, guess what? I just won. Darius is going to defend against Sean Legacy and Joey Lynch in a triple threat match for the title. Have a nice day.
Viral Pro Wrestling.
Man, that's going to be an absolute fire card, don't you think?
Well done. Well done video, too. Guys, killing it. That's awesome. Man, look at this pictures. Look what's going to be on the show. Sell it with a video. Have the great ending. Good job. I want to be there. That's what a wrestling video is supposed to do.
Absolutely. December 14th, 2019, Viral Pro Championship Wrestling, Holiday Havoc. Man, the main event alone, I was at the card before this where Legacy and Joey Lynch had a match who was going to get the opportunity to face Darius Lockhart. And, of course, the unknown gets involved. And then, of course, they thought they were going to come out on on the laughing end, I guess, or on the better end of the stick here, which did not. It backfired. So now Lockhart's wrestling Sean Legacy and Joey Lynch December 14th at the Sweetwater Gym at 1742 Rennes Highway, Thompson, Georgia. Doors open at 6:30. Bell time is at 7. Tickets are available right now at vpw.ticketbud.com. Again, that is VPW, like Viral Pro Wrestling, vpw.ticketbud.com. Get your tickets, man. I don't think you won't be disappointed. And of course, over on the right there, you see Kenzie Paige Henry wrestling Samantha Starr. I know you're a huge fan of Kenzie Paige Henry.
Y'all got to see this phenomenal kid. She is a prodigy. 17 years old right now. I think she's going to be somebody who might get signed before they get out of high school. She might get a contract that soon. We've got a card where you get to see high-end women's wrestling, high-end men's wrestling, all on one show. God almighty, that's a really good looking card. Get there for the holidays. You want a holiday present? Go ahead and give somebody some early tickets.
Absolutely. Get your tickets. Again, it is vpw.ticketbud.com, and check out Viral Pro Wrestling Holiday Havoc December 14th at the Sweetwater Gym. Again, that is 1742 Rennes Highway, Thompson, Georgia. Bell time is 7 o'clock. Doors open at 6:30. And again, last time, vpw.ticketbud.com. Well, brother, that's how hot Georgia indie wrestling is right now, is that there's card after card, week after week.
And the production is so phenomenal. Guys, thank you. Thank you. You know what it means to be somebody talking about wrestling in Georgia to non-wrestling people, non-wrestling fans. And when I want to show you, this is the event I'm going to, and you give me a good picture of a good video that looks professional, that I can show somebody who's not in the bubble, or you give me a bunch of fat guys on a blurry poster where the pictures are photoshopped on top of each other badly and clustered up, and they're pictures from 10 years ago. I don't want to show people that shit. These people are giving us good stuff, folks. They're going to make wrestling respectable. They're putting independent wrestling in Georgia on a huge stage. We are leading the Southeast, and we're going to lead the whole country in quality. If you keep putting out posters, you keep making videos, you keep putting on wonderful cards like these people are putting on. Thank you, wrestling.
And talk about some of the great stuff coming out of Georgia. I know, again, last week we recorded our show before All Elite. So the drawback of having wrestling on every night is something's going to be a week later.
But we'll catch up it later.
We'll catch. Solandra Royal was on AEW Dark, the YouTube show for All Elite Wrestling. Danny Jordan, who, again, hopefully it's running close, that we saw her. She wrestled Nyla Rose on AEW. So she had an appearance there. Congrats to those guys that we'd already talked about last week. We did get to mention a lot of good stuff is coming out of Georgia indie wrestling between the NWA Power, MLW, AEW. Clearly, let's be blunt. The One Fall Power Factory, they're obviously training. They're putting the training in.
We got coming up.
What's that?
They've got a 12-week program coming up. Man.
I saw that.
God, they have killing it. 3 rings, incredible weight room. I'm not doing a commercial for them. I'm just telling you, I've been there and I've seen this stuff. You want to be impressed with an NFL quality facility? That's where you want to go.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we're not doing a commercial, but if you want to get trained by, I know at that 12-week program, Ray Lloyd, the Glacier, is going to be involved. QT Marshall, Michael, yeah.
Buy a bunch of healthy food. I didn't know what to do with that stuff.
That you get trained, and of course he's involved with AEW, so that always increases your chances of getting onto a show over there. So if you're looking to get some training and you're in the Southeast, man, check out the One Fall Power Factory. Google it. It's your friend, and check them out for sure. But, one of the things we started last week is we did want to go ahead and get into is in the Georgia Indie Talk, kind of going through the rest of the year, we're talking about the awards. Obviously, we're going to finish up about the time the voting starts and everything. That's our goal. This week, we decided we would hit a couple things. We're going to do the referee, the women, and the event/show of the year. Let's start because one of the choices are, in my opinion, less, but I think it's hard to determine who the winner is the female performer of the year.
Oh yeah, we got a very interesting situation, and we got a dark horse, not only because she was an AEW Dark, but Shalonda Royal, for someone who's basically made a second half of the year push, she's killing it, appearing everywhere. Awesome. Improved dramatically. Awesome.
If she had done all year what she had done at the end of the year, I think she's right there with the. That's the only reason I'm sitting there. I tell people, if she didn't have a full year of the wrestling, like she had at the end.
And I think that's probably the biggest knock on one of the other competitors.
So yeah, let's go ahead. We'll do the two names that we had that we sat and discussed at length was we discussed Danny Jordan and we discussed Brooklyn Creed. The debate was simply all of Danny's stuff is in the ring, right? So it's all in ring and how far she's come and she's been involved in stuff. Brooklyn's has done as many important things in Georgia wrestling this year, but her biggest contributions have come in being Logan Creed's
A valet.
wife and valet, but his wife in stories and progress stories as far as, more out of the ring, not necessarily out of the ring's not the word I'm looking for, but not as a competitor, but as a performer, not just a character.
Well, she is a phenomenal heel when she's a heel. And when she's the sympathetic baby face in Southern Honor, she's done real good. She was out some of the year, had the baby. She's a great performer. I haven't seen her wrestle that much, mainly because she wasn't in the ring. She was doing the storyline and the angle stuff. I mean, can you forget the pile driver she took at Southern Honor? Can you forget the bit she did at Southern Fried when she basically did I'd Like to Talk to Tom, the old Continental angle? Can you being in the cage match? No, she wasn't in the cage match. She was involved with the Undeniable at Anarchy. But then you've got Danny, who has
all year long been at the top,
taken a heel run, embraced it, and made herself into somebody who is an integral part of a promotion that probably wasn't going to do that much women's wrestling in the first place. But Danny got herself over at the biggest show in Georgia, someone who was not an established name in Georgia, which Brooklyn already was. Danny took it over, made herself over, and made herself very important to every storyline. She's a fundamental part of the entire thing with the New Era. Her ring work has become phenomenal. She's on national television. Let
me ask you this. This is not going to be happy with a lot of the men in that group. Is Danny Jordan not the most important cog to the New Era?
I don't even think she's a cog. I think she's pretty much the main wheel. It's not going to work. There's been people pulled out of the New Era for reasons. And it keeps clicking because you've got her as a central figure. David Ali done a great job, but Danny Jordan has been the one who has brought the heat. Okay, she has been a heat magnet. She's done what a heel should do. She's made people dislike her. She's made people buy tickets. She is a central figure at Southern Honor, and that can't be underestimated.
Yeah.
She was on national television. Now, I know Brooklyn was on NWA Power. Okay, that's a great show. She did a wonderful job. But Danny was on network television. Cable.
Yeah. Cable television, yeah. So that one's going to be tough. We think ultimately down the road that one's going to be one of the tough ones to get the vote on. But I would say Brooklyn and Danny and Shalandra, like I said, are probably your top three names even in the equation right now.
Danny winning. I don't think it's going to be as far like a landslide as I thought earlier in the year because of what Brooklyn has done as a storyline. Just an absolute wonderful storyline character, but I think Danny Jordan wins.
Let's go to Ref of the Year. It seems to be that it's always like if you believe everything you read and you hear and you see, it's kind of like it's a David Weekley's award to lose this year.
I think I have to agree with you. David Weekley has worked every show in the Southeast. I mean, all over Georgia. He even works the big lucha shows, those big giant lucha shows that don't get any press in the normal wrestling business, but draw 2,000 people, on a 1,000 people.
Lucha, man. It's a draw.
It's a huge draw. And David's worked those shows. Okay. David worked the shows where the Bucks came out earlier in the year. David, he's just an absolute mainstay in Anarchy. He's integral at Southern Fried. He's worked at Southern Honor. He's a real nice guy too. Now, none of the guys I put in contention aren't really nice guys.
Right.
I think Grandpa Booker T, super cool, super great referee. Always like to see him on a show. I know he's going to do a fair card. He's going to be a fair match.
The only thing cooler than, it's a funny thing, is the only thing cooler than like watching Grandpa Booker ref a match is at the last Southern Fried show, I got to sit with him and talk because he wasn't working the show, so we sat and talked during the show.
Yeah.
Great guy, absolutely. Always deserved to be in the mix. I know Nathaniel Spivey, you're a big fan of his work too.
I love him. He takes a ref bump. He's the best ref bump in Georgia, in my opinion. He was at that Evolve tryout show, met William Regal and the gang. He's somebody that could go far in the wrestling business, and be a great referee, and he is a good referee. I think David Weekley has it now. I think David emotes well. David works the storyline well. He gets around. He handles things, and he refs everything. Okay, we know it's not real, folks, but David can sell it where it makes it look real. And that's the thing I love about David so much is he takes something that's fake and gives it an air of reality that I really appreciate. And that's why he's my vote. No if, and, or buts about it. It's David Weekley.
Let's go ahead and move to the last category we're going to cover this week, which is event/show of the year. The easy, and I mean the easy, answer here is simple. It's the Southern Honor 1000 show where they drew 1,000 people. Kenny Omega show up, Chris Jericho shows up, Cody's there. I mean, it was just a massive event. It's the easiest one by default, right? It's the easiest one to give the award to. Before we do that, let's throw the other two names that we were kind of batting around as we were talking. One we didn't go to, one we missed, but I'm going to go simply on the word of one man because his weight, his word has that much weight. That was the October Action show. Action Wrestling put on a show, and Larry Goodman said it could be very well the show of the year. We weren't there, but I'm going to watch it. That was my thing, is I'm going to watch it to make sure that if it does make the nominations list, that I want to make sure that I watch all of the shows for show of the year. Here's the kind of the one that was a bit of a twist. So everybody assumes Southern Fried's, Shindig show is the big show of the year. But I'll let you have this one, and you actually talked me into.
Crossroads was much better.
You thought Crossroads was better.
Top to bottom, even started at the poster. It had the most unique wrestling poster in Georgia this year. David Ali, dude, you're killing it. I hate to give you any credit for anything, but but he's got it dead on, man. That was a great poster. The casket match, I was late for the show because of work. I walked in the middle of the casket match, and the roof was coming off the building. And then when Corey Hollis showed up in the casket later on, the pop was insane. The amount of emotion and feel at that show was over. It was awesome. I got to give it to him for that. I think Crossroads was the better show, top to bottom.
And then of course, like I said, we come back to the Southern Honor 1000. That's the biggest draw, the biggest event. And like we said, look, I get it. Was as far as best wrestling and the best, if it's event of the year, it's got to be that show.
Yeah, I mean, they had another great show. They had that show where they did the War Games the last show I was able to get to.
Mm-hmm.
That was insane. That was awesome. But the significance of the 1,000-person show, the significance of the crowd, the significance of the talent that came out. I thought the War Games show was better, just as show-wise. But that show has a significance in Georgia wrestling that will be talked about for a long, long time. Yeah. That's what you're going to have to set your goals at to beat.
Oh, absolutely.
That's the high mark. That's the high water mark. That's the bar. All other shows are compared to that show. So
I'm right there with you. So we're coming up on it, man. I mean, Georgian, the Georgia Independent Georgia Wrestling History Awards are just around the corner, so we're kind of knocking them out as much as we can. Always send your opinions, your thoughts. Like I said, you can always email us at tappedoutpod@gmail.com, DM us at tappedoutpod, or message us on Facebook, or hell, while you're watching this video, you just comment right underneath. You can put your stuff in there along the way. But easily, man, we want to take you before we get in. My favorite place to tell you to go find us is if you're catching some shows early. I know some weeks we can't get the show out as early, but we do get them out on patreon.com/tappedoutpod. Check us out. unfortunately, I'm looking at the clock. We've ran over our allotted time, so we are not going to be able to get Danny Jordan on again this week. Hopefully, maybe next week we'll try and get her back on. So we're sorry, Danny. It's we try not to go over an hour. We've already went over an hour, so we can't take up that much airtime. So we do apologize. So, well, man, what's the old saying, brother? If I've got nothing and you've got nothing, what time is it?
It's time to tap out.